Hello, welcome to God Talk. Forgive me, it's been about a couple months. I've been slammed with things I've been doing. Um, just one quick point. Why I do these videos is just to help people out. Yeah, if people need help, then you don't have to watch the video. You might find it interesting or you might find it boring, but I'm just trying to help people out. The title of this video is Truth or Fiction. So let's get into it. Truth or fiction. We live in a world of many lies, especially in the media. What they do is they omit content so they can continue a narrative without giving the full picture. So omission of content uh, and and context in favor of a narrative. That's how everything's working now. It's really out there and easy to see. For people who don't see it, that's because you're caught up in the news and the media and what they tell you, and you can't. If you pull away from the TV for about a couple of weeks, then you'll realize and you talk to people, you realize they're painting a picture, and it's not the whole picture. All right, but how do we know what is fact and ultimately truth? So let's talk just fantastical mind versus reality, imagination. Well, when you're having this kind of situation, reality pretty much wins. A child learns fantasy from reality when he or she gets hurt. Okay. An older child might think they have a superpower, but it doesn't really work in reality. So let's say they see a character put his fist through a wall, and so they try to imitate it, but then they end up with a broken fist or hand or whatever. So that's what I'm trying to express here is fantasy versus reality. And right now, many people live in a fantasy. And with TVs, movies, games, and virtual reality, which is amazing, visuals can distort reality. Okay, subjectivity is someone's perspective. In other words, I think that's pretty. A flower. In other words, I like roses or I like daisies. That's subjective. It's whatever appeals to you. They're both beautiful. So beauty is not really can be objective, but flavor and taste can be very subjective. So objective is factual, it's truth. You can stand on it. One can choose to deny or accept it. That's a choice. You have will. But anyway, so the beauty of objectivity is in facts and truths you can stand on it. It's like a rock. You can build on it. It doesn't move. And you can go forward building on it. So we live in a natural order, and that's part of it's beautiful. How does one now? This is kind of how the approach is. How do I discern between fact or fiction amidst all these lies? Okay, so how does one navigate through all these lies on the TV? It's like driving to a place they haven't been before. Okay, because if you don't know, then how do you get there? Okay, so here you go. If it's the same thing, if you like, let's say you're trying to get to a place. I don't know how to get there. That's part of your honesty and observation. I've never been there. I don't know how to get there. So you maybe next step would be an investigate paths to a place, like a map, which is observation, search, and research. Maybe technology, maybe a GPS or a Google Maps or whatever, or maybe someone you know has been there and you ask them directions. That's a little humbleness and wisdom. So, and then finally you accept that as to be the way to get there and the truth, and then you go forward. Okay? You take action and it's very much like that when you're going to try to figure out what is true, what is false, and amongst all these lies. So, what's an example? How do you start? Well, I think you can start with yourself and basically self examination or self reflection. So, posture. Where do you stand? How are you now? Okay, now some of you guys, I don't know how to say. The truth is sometimes painful, sometimes you should look at truth as beautiful and then accept it and move forward with it. That's how but people's pride or attachments or things are in the way, and so that's what makes the pain. That's what makes it painful. Okay, so start with honesty. That you got to be honest with yourself. If you're not honest with yourself, then you got to go. That's the starting point. Be humble. Be humble means like you don't, full of pride and arrogance. You kind of lower yourself. You take a lower position. In other words, you accept what is an arrogant person is kind of, I'm the best. Well, you're not the best. You're not. You maybe maybe you could be. Let's say you're the best sprinter at the time, whatever, you know, running sprinter. That's great, but it's a temporary position. Sometimes you may be the best of all time. That's great. I understand that is kind of true. However, that doesn't mean you're the best person. You know. So it's often because what happens in life is often people who have pride are going to be knocked down, not physically but situationally. So take a low position, and what will happen is that you may rise up, and it's an odd thing. It's just a spiritual thing, but people who are humble tend to rise up, and people who are proudful tend to fall down. So see, acceptance of yourself. This is a tricky one for many people. Okay, God created you as you are for a reason. Don't try to be someone else. Now, if you like some characteristics someone else might have, there's nothing wrong with imitating like virtue, but you can't be them. You know what I'm saying? So now, if you deviate from this acceptance of yourself, you don't shine as much as you could. In other words, you're not. That's a hard one to describe. And you may be unhappy. That's something that might. Some people want to be this, they want to be that, and they're never happy. Okay, they're just not content with themselves. They always want to be someone else or better than themselves, whatever. So there's nothing wrong with bettering yourself. Let's say you want to exercise and make yourself, healthier. That's not a problem. But what I'm trying to say is how you view yourself. You got to accept yourself as you are. Everyone plays their part and shines in their part. Okay, so let me explain this. I was in a band way back called the Ulster Boys. Okay. If you don't know my channel, you see my channel, you're on my channel. You've got music all over the place. So one of the college bands, the college band I was in is called the Ulster Boys. Well, the lead singer was really good at memorizing words and songs, and he had a good voice, a great voice actually. And he was also a good-looking guy, meaning that, he could maybe attract the female persuasion, right? That kind of thing. I was not that way. And this person also was more tending toward acting type of personality. I was not that way. I was more of a background person. And while I couldn't memorize words too well, I was able to memorize solos or guitar licks pretty easily, and then sing with background harmony. And so this person, he was the lead person, the lead singer, and he was a bass player, and I was the guitarist, who played guitar and did solos and did background harmonies. That's it. And then we shined as that. If he tried to do a guitar solo, it wouldn't have come out. If I tried to sing without knowing the words, it wouldn't have come out right. But together we shined. We had our own, and together the Ulster Boys, if you will, shined. I'm not mentioning the fantastic drummer we had, but anyway, it also helped us shine. So the point is, we had our part to play. And you don't get jealous and envious of someone else's doing better than you or they sing better. It's not the point. Do what you can do, and then and if you're like on a team or something, you'll shine. Okay, so that's an example, kind of a crude example of like just accepting yourself, and God created you for a reason, and just accept that you're not, you're who you are. Okay, He made you that way for a reason. First, let's say another thing is natural. Accept your natural aspects. In other words, some people have medical conditions. They may have asthma. They have an allergy. So if you have a severe allergy to something, you don't go to eat that. Let's say you're allergic to peanuts. You don't go and eat a peanut to prove that it's the natural order. You cannot have peanuts because it makes you have an allergy and you have to go to the hospital or you'll die. Okay, that's the way it is. Why do you have that? I don't know why you have that allergy. There's a reason behind it. Some people have medical conditions and we don't know why. It's part of God's plan. Some have more beauty than us. I might do a whole thing on beauty because people are into beauty. And when I used to teach in pathology, and I used to teach certain things with a lot of women in the class, and beauty is very important. So anyway, I might do a whole thing on beauty, but the bottom line is you are beautiful as you are, and I don't mean that like superficially. I mean really. I'll just say this for example. I know a guy who was a very good looking guy. I can't tell guys, but the girls say he's unbelievable looking, right? He tended to like chubby girls. He liked the girls with little meat on them. He didn't like, and all these girls who looked like models, he could care less. He was on, so you just don't know. Some guy, I can only speak as a guy. Some guys like darker skinned girls. Some guys like lighter skinned girls. The Ginger versus Marianne kind of thing. So some have natural genetics that make them larger. Some can eat all they want and they stay thin as a rail because of genetics. Some seem to be beautiful when they're younger, and then they get older. Obviously when you have children, you get a little bit weight bearing, and then some age really well, like a great wine. They age beautifully. So, in other words, nothing about beauty. I'm not going to go on anymore. Some are more athletic. Um, you know, some can jump higher. Some can, some are smarter. We're not all geniuses. There are geniuses. The smartest guy, I think, I don't know his name, but the guy with the highest IQ, I think he's a rancher in the Midwest in the United States. And he's nothing to do with Yale or Harvard. He's just a regular ordinary rancher, and he has the highest IQ. Yeah, he's not proud of it. He's just a regular guy. He just has that ability. Some are rich. This is something hard to understand because we have the politics of rich versus poor. You always want to help the poor. That's the bottom line. However, some people are born rich. It's not their. It's a grace from God. You're born rich. Your father, you happen to be born to a father or mother who was rich, or you inherit money, whatever. You're rich. Some are, and you can't. You know, some people are born poor. It's the way it is. Some have more friends. They're social. They're just social butterflies. Some are more. So the point is, everybody's different, but God created you for a reason, and you have natural, um, you know, there's a reason why you look the way you are. You have those gifts that you have. What big thing nowadays is, the whole girl versus guy thing, right? Very simple. This is, too bad if it's controversial. But when you have a Y chromosome, you're a guy. That's simple. You can't pretend you're a girl because you're not. You can pretend all you want. You can, put makeup on, whatever. But you're a guy. It doesn't matter how many chemicals you take, how many hormones. It doesn't matter how many surgeries you take. If you have a Y chromosome, I'm sorry, science can't go to every single cell you have and take out that Y chromosome. Now, with that said, I'm sorry that you have to deal with this, whatever you have, and there are, counselors and psychiatrists for that stuff. But I mean that it's you can't change the natural order. And people are fighting against it nowadays, and they're going to lose. They're going to be unhappy. They decide they did the wrong thing later on, whatever. So there are other things that are more it's not natural as such, but they're kind of your personality. You may love nature. Some people love animals, being outside, etc. Some people are very artsy. They're into visual arts, like they're into painting or crafts, like macrame or whatever. Some people are musician types. They're auditory. They create music or whatever. All that is wonderful. It has to do with how God made you and maybe your purpose in life. And um, some people are really social people. They just love to socialize, and some people are not. They're more introverted. They like to be alone and quiet. Some people are into computers. We have a incredible technology going on in the last century and this century with computers programming. Some people like to do games. Um, some people are into cars. They like to take apart the engines and rebuild them. They like the loudness and racing of them. Some people are into sports, football, basketball, etc. Another thing regarding what's going on in sports, this is again, it's too bad. We're in 2024, and the TV and those who are trying to create a bad society are becoming extremely successful. We're a society where a lot of anger out there, and the TV is then used as a mechanism to create it, and they're very coming very very successful. We have we're coming across an election pretty soon, and the venom is unbelievable. It wasn't that much before, um, and it's all created. It's all created. So if you're getting caught up in that thing and the politics and getting all angry, uh, you may want to remove yourself from it. And then anyway. So let me show you some examples. Caitlin Clark is a phenomenal female basketball player who I think was this year. Um, she happens to be white, Caucasian, and she has extraordinary gifts. She's physically extraordinary in terms of she can put the ball in the. Now, it's stupid, but she can put the ball in the basket from, you know, 40 feet or whatever that is out, okay? Now, that's basketball. You put the ball in the basket and you get points. That's a form of entertainment. That's great. I mean, when I was younger, I was a big sports fan and I loved hoops. But the reality is, she's putting a ball in a basket. That's it. Now, she's fantastic at it, and there's something special about her. Okay? She's so special that the whole league benefited from her specialness. Okay? Again, I note that she happens to be white. Why? Because nowadays they're making a big deal of her being a Caucasian. She's not black. So what? Now, here's the thing. Knowing sports, who are the greatest basketballers of all time? Well, you got to start with Bill Russell. He won 11 games. He's black. Wilt Chamberlain. The game had to change to make Wilt Chamberlain. Uh, they had to break the rule. They had to change the rules just so Wilt Chamberlain wouldn't score. Okay, he's black, right? And both white people and black people watched the game. There was no problem with it. Now, I'm not saying there's not racism. I'm just saying is if you keep pushing racism on everything, everybody's going to see racism, but they're not going to enjoy things, Um, Dr. J. I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm talking about basketball, but Dr. J was a phenom. He was Jordan before Jordan was Jordan, right? He would be in the air. He basically, in the '70s, early '70s, he was the league. I mean, it was amazing. There's some incredible documentaries on how he just flew through the air. Just an amazing athlete. Okay. Then in the '80s, you had the Michael Jordan. I mean, then you had Magic Johnson, Larry Bird situation. Now you had a race thing, but that wasn't. It wasn't. It wasn't. Some people made more of it a race thing than it was. Okay. Most people, you gotta understand, Boston Celtics, who Larry Bird was, the coach was black, and half the players are black. Not, yeah. So it didn't matter. In Boston, it didn't matter. Yeah, the Lakers mattered because they were the competitive team in Los Angeles, but it was never an issue in Boston. Um, Although Larry Bird would bring it up because trash talking. But that's another story. That's just his personality. And then and the people didn't like in Boston didn't like L.A. because they were so good. So the whole idea. Here's a woman who's gifted. She MJ. When MJ came to the league, and he I should bring that up in the early '90s. Like 89 to 91, 2 or 3. Yeah. When that time frame, Michael Jordan he was unbelievable, right? He was black. The white people didn't care. The black people didn't. It was just basketball, okay. But Look what the TV's doing to you, people. Just forget about it. So enough about that. So that's Caitlin Clark. Desire. When it comes down to desire, I knew a guy in college who was 6'6". And I loved hoops at the time, and I was like, wow, I wish I was your height. Do you play basketball? No, I want to be a doctor. He's probably a really good doctor, but he was really tall. He could have played hoops. He had no desire. So that's another aspect of recognizing who you are. If you don't have desire, then you're probably not going to do it. And then finally, there's divine intervention. So let's say this happens occasionally. God can do whatever He wants. He can change. He can do anything. So let's say you have three. You're sprinting against three people. Okay, you have two or three sprinters, and you're number three. Okay, and you do your sprint for competition, and the other two happen to jam into each other and sprain their ankle, and then you beat them both. Okay, and the third one, the other one comes in after you, and you just won. That's an example of divine intervention. And then sometimes divine intervention happens to humble people who are proudful. Okay, so and what I'm trying to say there is that you can keep trying and trying and trying, and if you still have the desire in your heart and it's burning, maybe you should keep pursuing it. Anyway, the other things so moving on. You like to be creative. Maybe that's your type. You like to create. Creative people tend to be a little different. They tend to be like looking at beauty and they have to stop and allow their creative juices to kind of take place. And then they have to draw, or they write, or maybe they write music. Sometimes poetry causes creativity, that kind of thing. So anyway, and then like I mentioned before, some people like to be by themselves. So again, understand who you are. That's probably the best posture, and not to be so self-absorbed, but recognize that okay, God has given you these gifts, and you're not going to be this person, but you're who you are for a reason. Okay, you don't have to do anything. There are some people who think you have to do something. I work with many disabled people who can't do much because they're maybe in a wheelchair or whatever. What about their existence? Do they matter? Well, when we walk down the wheelchair in the mall, sometimes when I've done that in the past, people would light up. They would think, "Oh, that's what a beautiful thing that is," and they would cause people to be caring and light. What a gift that is, to bring the goodness out of people instead of bringing the badness out of people. What a gift that is. And so even though they may not be able to do anything, like because they're quadriplegic or whatever, right? They still bring joy in people's eyes, and that's what a gift that is. So anyway, so that's posture, looking at yourself, accepting who you are, maybe a little self-reflection, yada yada. Let's move on to observation. Observations, now here you're kind of looking at yourself in a situation. So what's the situation? Okay, most of the time there's no pressure, but like say you have a big decision to make and blah blah blah. You kind of step back and look at the situation. If you do X, what is going to happen? Like, what is the fruit of what your action that you take? So what is the fruit of what this action is? What is the result? What happens in the short term and what happens in the long term? Okay. So now you're trying to figure out the difference between truth, and then falsehood or lies, and you have to understand yourself, know who you are, and then like in terms of maybe the future where you have to make a decision knowing who you are. Then this is where it's the second step comes in observation. Step back, look at the situation. And what's the fruit of the action? This could be, if you have to make a decision about marriage, this has, a job, or even lesser decisions. There's no pressure. That's the key. There shouldn't be any pressure. Okay. There are decisions you have to make under pressure. That's a different thing. But just generally speaking, what's the action going to take? Then 3, do some searching and researching. Look for facts and truths. What does the person say? Does this person on the TV, does this what the saying person saying, this person saying stand the test of time? Is it legitimate, or is the person just talking and then it doesn't make any sense in a year from now? Has this been seen before? Has whatever they're talking about, situation or whatever, has this been seen before? Where, when, by whom, etc. Our founding fathers used a great term, self-evident. We want to see the evidence. In science, there's a term used, evidence-based. I'm not sure that's what they really mean. I think it's often lying uses truthful terms. Science should always be about evidence, period. Okay, that's what makes science science. The fact that we have, quote, evidence-based science is a concern because it's kind of like a redundancy. And it's when I hear it, I'm like, is it really evidence-based? So anyway, show me the evidence. Show me the proof that what you're saying is true. The data. Now, again, this is what's going on. A lot of things, a lot of problems nowadays are caused by statistics. And statistics can be manipulated, okay, to show a desired outcome. So polling data, let's say we're talking about politics, polling data can be very controversial. For example, if you're polling a TV station or whatever media that tends to be liberal-minded, well, their outcome might be liberal. Or if you put polling a more conservative thing, the outcome might be more conservative. It's so you got to look at the objectivity, the statistics. This happens a lot unfortunately, in medicine. Some of the data has been fudged because medicine is big money, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. And then look at the history of it. What does the history show? Is there any history of it? What happened? Well, they're trying to change history too. The true history is very dry. It shouldn't say this person did this because they were happy. It should be, this is what happened, blah, blah. Maybe this person was into this at the time. We have these documents. This is why he made the decision based on his writings. That's evidence. That's, historical evidence, scientific evidence. Show me the evidence. Okay. If it doesn't have evidence, then what you're saying could be completely false. All right, 4, acceptance. Well, now that you have an evidence and maybe it goes against what you think, now it's painful. The truth can be very painful, okay? So it might take weeks or months to accept these things as valid. Now, there's some things that are just this way. Let's say someone has a cancer diagnosis. Okay, that's truthful and it's painful. They have cancer. That's painful. You accept that I have cancer. Doesn't mean you can try to get rid of it, and you may get rid of it. But I'm just telling you that that painful, can be very painful. Yeah. Sometimes it can be boring, truthful, and not exciting, very dry. Sometimes truth is like that, and that's okay. The beauty of truth is it's truth. You can stand on it. You can make decisions from it. Action. So what do you do for action? Well, what will you do now that you know it is true? Okay. And like I said, it can be painful. Are there guidelines or morals that you need to follow that are based on this truth? That are based on truth. So in other words, someone's been there before. This is what they've done because you don't want to hurt others. You don't want to hurt yourself. So you have to take an action. Sometimes the action you take will hurt people because they're attached to things or they have a hard time accepting things. or it's just a sad situation. Sometimes you have to, intentionally hurt them. Sometimes you don't have to tell people anything, but sometimes, it's best to tell them outright. Patience is always a good rule of thumb. You might need more time. Slow decisions are better than rash ones. Okay? So, now that you know that this is true, you need to chew on it a little bit. And a situation might present itself. It's a great line from a Star Trek. Spock says, wait till a situation presents itself. And that's true. Sometimes the decision or the action you have to make is already presented. It's really easy because you waited and it's going one direction and the direction it's going in seems to make sense. Okay. Sometimes it's going a direction you want to change it, but no matter what you try to change it, it keeps going that direction. So you just don't know. But the situation will present itself. Be patient. Prudence. Be careful how it affects you and others. You want to make sure others aren't, others' feelings or others won't get as hurt as they might. So feelings are tricky because everybody's feelings are hurt nowadays. You can say the sky is blue and it's that's the way it is nowadays. So, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like really more deeper kind of things. Wisdom, again, has this happened before? What did others do? So let's say you have, cancer or whatever. Sometimes if you go into a support group or find out from families, how did they disclose this? Or someone like your mother has Alzheimer's. It's a family kind of thing. How do you disclose that to people around you? How did others help through this? That kind of thing. So what did others do? Maybe confide in someone. This is a tricky part, though. When you confide in someone, you trust them, and sometimes they let the cat out of the bag. They didn't mean to, but they did, and so that's what I mean. If you need to confide that way, just be careful because that once you tell them, they may accidentally, say something. Sometimes action doesn't have to take place because things resolve on their own. And that I found to be a lot of the time, maybe 50% of the time, maybe 25 or so, things resolve out of their own volition. And so while you can be very patient, and then this resolves themselves. So enough said. The reason I bring this up again is there's so much lying on the TV. You got kids. A lot of people are confused. They don't know where to go. They don't know how to take apart what is true and false. So I've had these. That's why I did this video. It may be boring, but whatever. I think there's a couple of good tests here. Some things you may want to take a look at to test your objectivity. So here's 3 of them. What really happened on 9/11, and what is World Trade Center 7? A lot of people don't even know what World Trade Center 7 is. I think that's something to look at. What really happened during COVID? COVID just happened about 2 years ago or so. What really happened? Why all of a sudden we don't have the same things going on this year than we did last time? Which religion is the real religion? That's a really deep one. Which church is the real church? That's another deep one. These are going to test your objectivity. If you say, well, I don't like, I'm not going to go any further. So anyway, those are something for your investigation. I think I've talked long enough. Hope you enjoyed the video. Take care. Bye-bye.